Welcome everyone. Apologies for the change of virtual venue from Teams to Zoom. I hope that hasn't caused too much of an inconvenience for everyone today. I'd like to start this meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands from which we're all meeting and pay our respect to elders past and present. My name is Miriam Thompson. I run the Building Certification and Contractor Prequalification programs at the Cleaning Accountability Framework. Joining me today to talk about CAF Prequalification is Stephen Peters, who is the Sustainability Manager at ISPT. I will introduce Stephen in more detail shortly, but we'll first introduce CAF, as there may be attendees who have limited background on who we are. CAF is a homegrown independent labour rights assurance body. We were founded 8 years ago by Australian Super and United Workers Union in response to the problem of exploitation of cleaners in the industry. The Fair Work Ombudsman, large property owners, facility managers, cleaning contractors and industry bodies got on board to address this problem head on and set a standard that rewards good practice when it comes to the procurement, management and delivery of outsourced cleaning services. As with all multi-stakeholder propositions, the development stage was lengthy, but this also ensured that we were able to take our time to build a solution for the industry that had true buy-in from the industry and that reflected and managed stakeholder groups' often competing interests. In 2019, we launched the CAF Building Certification Scheme following a 2-year pilot with industry stakeholders. CAF Building Certification is an assurance that cleaning services have been responsibly procured, managed and delivered at a given building. With 23 buildings certified across the country and a system that works, we are now looking to scale up and facilitate property owners achieving certification of property assets across their entire portfolio. Key to this scaling up is a mechanism to pre-qualify cleaning contractors that have had their employment systems assessed by CAF. We're therefore really pleased to have now launched CAF Contractor Prequalification, as this will allow us to substantially extend our footprint in the industry and achieve our objective to promote responsible contracting practices and decent work for cleaners. I know there has been a lot of interest over the past year or so from both cleaning contractors wishing to become pre-qualified and from procurers of cleaning services interested in working with contractors who have been assessed against the CAF 3-star standard. CAF Prequalification will create efficiencies in the assessment for building certification, as the cleaning contractors' employment systems will already have been verified. I'm joined today by Stephen Peters, as I mentioned, who is the Sustainability Manager at ISPT. ISPT have achieved CAF certification at a total of 8 buildings to date, with several more in the pipeline, and are considered to be a market leader in their commitment to ensuring decent work standards for cleaners in their supply chain. CAF recently announced a partnership with ISPT to develop and pilot portfolio certification over the next 18 months, which will facilitate ISPT achieving a CAF rating across their entire property portfolio. I will invite Stephen a bit later on to present on ISPT's approach to procuring cleaning services and on their partnership with CAF to develop a portfolio-wide assessment mechanism for which contractor pre-qualification will be a key requirement. So slide 2, which I believe we are on. Thank you, Stephen. What is CAF Contractor Prequalification? Prequalification signals to the market that a contractor has had their HR systems, policies and procedures assessed against our standard. It will be a mandatory component of portfolio certification. Cleaning companies will be assessed against the standard, which is the CAF 3-star standard, that is, which is a set of labour standards designed to promote responsible employment practices which ensure that cleaners are being paid correctly, that they have a safe workplace, and importantly, that they have a voice at work. Next slide, please. How does pre-qualification interact with building certification? As you can see from this slide, pre-qualification is a systems check, whereas building certification is best understood as an implementation check. CAF Prequalification is designed to create efficiencies in the assessment process, where a cleaning contractor has contracts in place at several sites undergoing CAF building certification, or where a property owner will seek certification of a portfolio of assets. A CAF pre-qualified contractor can provide documents that apply across the organisation just once during the pre-qualification assessment, so that building certification assessments, including those conducted at a portfolio level, can focus more specifically on the implementation of good and best practice policies and procedures at the site level, Is CAF contractor pre-qualification an alternative to CAF building certification? The definitive answer to that is no. CAF contractor pre-qualification does not provide assurance that a contractor is fully compliant with the CAF standard and should not be viewed in this way by procurers. Furthermore, exploitation occurs due to failings within the entire supply chain. This includes procurers, not just cleaning contractors. Key elements such as contract pricing and supply chain oversight mechanisms cannot be captured by contractor pre-qualification. CAF building certification assesses the entire supply chain and remedies issues at all levels to enable exploitation-free workplaces. So some examples of what gets assessed at pre-qualification versus what gets assessed at building certification. I'll just run through a couple of examples. So in relation to payroll and attendance systems, through the pre-qualification assessment, we would be looking at your actual system and the policies and procedures and adequacy of controls within the payroll system and the attendance system. Just checking that everything's calibrated correctly according to the current award rates and everything. Then through building certification, we're actually assessing employee time and wage records to verify correct payroll implementation. So doing that both through a desk-based assessment and through direct engagement with workers at a building. Another example could be around personal leave entitlements. So through pre-qualification, we would assess the company's personal leave policy to ensure that it is aligned with minimum legal requirements. Whereas at a building certification assessment, we're actually doing worker verification that cleaners are able to take sick leave when they need to. There'll be a lot more information like this up on our website and in the guide to contractor pre-qualification, which will be provided to applicants once they have submitted their application form. On to the next slide. I'll just run through the steps to becoming CAF pre-qualified. So first, a contractor will apply for pre-qualification, which involves completing a self-assessment questionnaire. There will be a threshold requirement that will need to be met in order to proceed to the next stage. The threshold requirement is there to make sure that contractors have the best chance of succeeding when it comes to assessment time. And this self-assessment questionnaire is already up on our website, so you can take a look at that and see what sort of questions we're asking. Secondly, contractors that meet the threshold requirement will then proceed to an eligibility screening process. This will involve CAF and our partners, the Fair Work Ombudsman and United Workers Union, looking at current and historical compliance information to determine any high-risk areas or outstanding compliance matters. In addition, United Workers Union will conduct meetings with a sample set of cleaners to gather direct information from workers themselves. CAF will assess the information provided by the Fair Work Ombudsman and by United Workers Union and determine whether the contractor has passed the screening process and can move on to the assessment. In step 3, the contractor then undergoes an assessment by an auditor appointed by CAF. The assessment will look at the cleaning contractor's systems, policies and procedures that I was mentioning earlier to assess alignment with our standard. Upon successful completion, the contractor will be awarded pre-qualification and will go up on our website alongside other pre-qualified contractors in our directory. And to maintain pre-qualification, the contractor will undergo annual renewals, which will require implementing any additional CAF requirements that have come about in the preceding 12 months. Moving to slide 5. So fees for CAF pre-qualification range from $12,000 to $20,000 per year based on annual company revenue. In year 1, there is an additional fee payable to an auditor appointed by CAF who does the assessment of the company's systems, policies and procedures. Please note also that 10% of the CAF fee is payable if the contractor proceeds to the eligibility screening phase, and the balance is payable prior to the auditor assessment. Next slide. Once a company is pre-qualified, what happens? So CAF provides pre-qualified contractors with a badge as pictured on this slide and a marketing guide. The badge can be used across your marketing channels to show the company's achievement. You can include the CAF contractor pre-qualification badge on your company website, social media channels, and in printed brochures, tender documents, annual reports, and internal documents. Usage just needs to be pre-approved by CAF to ensure it is consistent with our marketing guide. Once you're pre-qualified, another important thing to focus on is promoting best practice in the industry. So complying with the CAF standard in a spirit of continual improvement. We also offer training opportunities for employees of cleaning contractors that are pre-qualified through our recently launched LMS. And pre-qualified contractors will have free access to those training modules. We also have modern slavery reporting guidance for pre-qualified contractors that assists you in reporting on your actions to address modern slavery risk in your operations and supply chain. And you also have the opportunity to nominate for CAF's technical advisory groups. These are groups where refinements to CAF certification and pre-qualification are undertaken in consultation with other industry stakeholders. And that includes pre-qualified contractors. Each year, pre-qualification will be subject to an annual renewal process to payment of fees and ongoing compliance obligations being met. This takes the form of a completion of a self-assessment questionnaire, demonstration of company-wide implementation of corrective action to issues that have been identified at certified buildings over the past 12 months, and upgrading to the latest version of the CAF standard and associated tools. Now, I expect there'll be plenty of questions about what I've just said, but first I'll pass over to Stephen to talk about ISPT and portfolio certification and the role that CAF contractor pre-qualification is going to play in this. And then we'll answer all the questions following Stephen's presentation. Over to you, Stephen.
All right, so hopefully everyone can see the screen there. So thanks, Miriam, for the introduction. As you said, my name's Stephen Peters and I'm the Sustainability Manager at ISPT. I just want to spend a few minutes talking about ISPT's involvement in CAF, I guess a quick introduction to portfolio certification and then what that means for for pre-qualification. So for anyone that doesn't know ISPT, we were established about 25 years ago as a vehicle for industry super funds to invest in property. We've certainly grown over that time, and we now have about $19 billion worth of funds under management, and we invest in property on behalf of some of Australia's largest industry super funds. Just to give a little bit of context, it's probably fair to say that environment, social and governance factors are critical considerations for any property company at the moment, and that's certainly no exception for us. The diagram you can see on the right-hand side of the screen reflects the ESG issues of material importance to ISPT and our stakeholders. And I guess just to flag there that these issues of responsible supply chain management are one of the key areas of focus within our framework. And we also have a series of flag on the hill targets that we're seeking to achieve by 2025. And in this context, one of those is to achieve CAF certification across our entire office and retail portfolio. So then just thinking about, why does ISPT have an interest in CAF and the cleaning sector? And I think it's fair to say that ISPT has always had an interest in just ensuring that labour standards and the right working conditions are in place, because we just think it's the right thing to do fundamentally. But we also recognise that the cleaning industry has been susceptible to forms of labour exploitation for a long time. So we've had a long history of involvement with CAF, which I'll touch on in a moment. So, as I said, ISPT has been involved in CAF since its inception. Over that time, we've looked to incorporate CAF requirements as part of our tender processes and our cleaning contracts. We were amongst the first buildings in Australia to incorporate the CAF certification process at our buildings. And as I said, we've also now got a commitment towards achieving CAF certification across our entire office and retail portfolio. So as Miriam mentioned earlier, we're really pleased to be working with CAF on the development of a portfolio certification model. We think that it's going to really streamline the process and hopefully achieve both efficiencies in terms of cost and effort. So I just wanted to touch very briefly on some of the areas that we think are sort of the drivers for building owners, and then how that starts to lead towards the links, I guess, back into pre-qualification. So Miriam touched on this also as well, but I think everyone's aware of the fact that the Modern Slavery Act places reporting obligations on large companies. Through those obligations, large organisations are required to understand the risks of modern slavery within their supply chain, report on the actions they're taking to address those risks, and report on the effectiveness of those actions. And while CAF in itself doesn't necessarily deal with those sort of extreme ends of modern slavery, it certainly does start to address those forms of labour exploitation that can potentially be leaders or indicators of more extreme issues within a site. And for us, CAF and certification provides a third-party validation of the practices and the procedures and the contracts that we have in place, and that those measures are being implemented on the ground. And then linking that back into modern slavery and the reporting obligations, having that CAF certification is a demonstration of the effectiveness of those actions. And then we can demonstrate that through that third-party verification, that those actions are actually being implemented and are being addressed within our buildings. So, I mean, leading on then from that individual building by building certification approach, looking at portfolio certification provides the opportunity to certify at scale. And I think that scale is a question that CAF's been working on over the last little while. And I think we're going to really see that start to drive take up of CAF certification across building owners, being able to do it not just on a sort of building by building basis, but look at a whole portfolio is going to start to drive that. And then thinking then again about how that links back into Prequal. Pre-qualification really just sort of underpins that portfolio certification model. So while building owners may not necessarily have that as a requirement now immediately, I think increasingly we'll see that those requirements potentially become embedded as part of tender requirements, and certainly as the maturity of this grows and more contractors become pre-qualified, we'll see that start to feed through existing contracts. So that was everything that I wanted to share. I'll hand that back over to you now, Miriam.